So, yeah, I think they eat a bunch of carbs before they do it or something like that. I try to avoid having that many carbs because then I'll just turn to fat on me because I don't run.
Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
The retirement marathon, getting through retirement. I always talk about, getting to and through retirement. Getting through it can be a lot like running a marathon. And these days, that marathon is getting longer and longer and longer as people live longer. Let's talk about some similarities to marathon running. First of all, there's a lot of planning and preparation goes into it. And that's exactly what Mark Silverman can help you with, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've never done a marathon. I've had friends that have done it or that are even actually still or that still do them. And I have all the respect in the world. Those are tough. I'm not personally a runner.
Same here.
But I do respect that. But, planning and preparation is important. You can't just, call it quits one day without having the proper planning done and making sure that you're not going to have to go back to work. So having somebody that knows what they're doing, that can look and see what all the pitfalls that may happen if you do decide to retire, what sort of things do you need to think about? Do you have health care in place? Are you old enough for Medicare? Some aren't. How are you going to solve that equation? How are you going to have the cash flow that you need in retirement? How do you know how much you're going to need in retirement? We help with that as well. Looking inflation projections, making sure that you have enough money planned that if you do live into your, early 90s, that you're not going to run out of money and not be a burden to your kids, et cetera. And just, all these different things that can happen. If you have Social Security, how do you take that? What's the best way to maximize that? If you're lucky enough to have a pension, what's the best way to take that? Do you take it for you and your spouse? Do you take it just on you? There's lots of different options. So having all these pieces put together and having somebody that can run those numbers for you and that's done it many times for clients is crucial. And so that way you feel confident when you do retire, knowing that you're not going to have to go back to work, because when things do happen, because things happen, life happens, that we have a strategy in place to handle that sort of situation.
Yeah, you can't just go into it willy-nilly. I mean, just like running a marathon, you can't just decide, hey, one day I'm going to run a marathon that's 24.6 miles or 26.4?
Something like that. Yeah, it's long.
You can't just decide that you're going to do it. You got to get ready for it and
exactly.
For preparation. Also, the folks I know who run marathons insist on having a proper diet all the time, but there are some special things that they do before the marathon. And talk about that, if you would, and relate that to retirement planning.
So, yeah, I think they eat a bunch of carbs before they do it or something like that. I try to avoid having that many carbs because then I'll just turn to fat on me because I don't run. But, having a proper diet, I would probably relate to making sure that you have the right mix. Diet would be, I guess, protein, fat, and carbs, having the right mix in your portfolio, because as you get closer to retirement or in retirement, you probably become a little bit more conservative than you were when you're working and not touching that money that you were saving in retirement. So, making sure that you have that portfolio and adjusting it for that so that you don't have an situation where, as I used as an example, somebody that retired in, say, 2008 versus somebody that retired in 2010 had two different scenarios. 2008 is when the market took the big hit. So retiring then where your account drops 40-50% and then you're still withdrawing that money to live, going to have a lot different than somebody who retired in, say, 2010 when the the bull markets just started coming back up again. And so understanding that and looking at those sorts of things and having somebody run the analysis to show that, these things can happen, and when they do happen, how does that affect your withdrawal rates on your assets in retirement?
Okay, one last thing I wanted to ask you about
Sure.
here, and this is something that I can't personally relate to either when it comes to running, but, they always say that a real danger for folks running a marathon is starting too fast and, then not having the energy at the end to finish. But I suppose that really relates well to retirement planning, because you got a lot of folks out here who retire and then start doing all this traveling and spending all this money in the very beginning and then don't have enough left. So how do you help folks avoid that situation?
Yeah, and you've got to have the right balance, kind of like what you were saying. I mean, when you do retire, you want to be able to travel and and I know it's a little bit more restrictive right now, but things will get back, and they are coming back. But, getting, whether it be travel or whatever it is that you want to do in retirement, you got to be able to do it when you can, because I've seen on the other side where people wait too long, and then once you get to a certain age, then you're not able to travel anymore, health reasons, physical reasons, whatever it might be. So you have to have the right balance. But having a plan, what that does is put you at peace of mind knowing that you're not going to run out of money. So if you are out there spending money and enjoying things, it's not going to put you in a bind where, now you hit 85 and you can't travel anymore, but now you have some big health bills that aren't covered by insurance that you have to pay for, that you need to have the money to pay for. So I think with that being said, it's going back to everything like we just discussed, having a plan to handle these sorts of situations so you do have the right mix and you're able to go do the things that you want to do in retirement because you plan for them, and rather than just kind of winging it, which unfortunately is what I find most people do if they haven't done the proper planning.
Mark Silverman, I know we could call this whole conversation about retirement and marathons. We could call it the retirement marathon because in some ways there are some similarities. And I know that if someone gives you a call, you won't go out and help them train for an actual marathon, but you'll certainly help them get ready for retirement. I'm going to give out the number in just a moment, but what are some of the things that you might talk about?
So if you call us, send us a text, whatever it might be, what we will do is you'll get on my calendar. I'll have Christine, who works with me, she'll give you a call, get you on my calendar for a phone call. There's no cost, no obligation. We'll spend 15 or 20 minutes. You'll actually speak with me. I don't pawn you off on somebody else. And I'll answer any questions that you may have. You may have some burning financial planning questions. You may have any questions, quite honestly, that I can help answer. And then I'll give you a little background of what we do. We can discuss if we're going to be a good fit or not by the end of the call. If that all makes sense, then what I'll do is I will schedule a time for you to come in and meet with me here in the office, or a Zoom call if you're not comfortable coming in yet, and go from there and determine if we're going to be a good fit as far as working together. But nothing happens until you reach out. But like I said, if you have some burning questions, or you're looking for a new advisor, or you're looking for if you're a first time, you've never worked with someone, what does that look like? Happy to discuss that with you and give you some information. But like I said, nothing happens until you've reached out.
You've been listening to the Saving with Silverman podcast. If you have any questions at all about your financial situation, please give Mark Silverman a call. Again, his number is 520-333-7601, or go online to savingwithsilverman.com. For Mark Silverman, I'm Ron Stutz. We'll see you next time on the Saving with Silverman podcast.
The Saving with Silverman podcast is brought to you by Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, based in Tucson, Arizona. The show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and everywhere you listen to shows. Subscribe to the show on your favorite app today and never miss an episode. Just search for Saving with Silverman to find us, or visit savingwithsilverman.com to listen to past episodes, to contact Mark, and to learn more about how to make smarter decisions with your money.
Did you know that Mark Silverman also has a radio show? Tune in to Saving with Silverman Saturdays and Sundays at 3 p.m. on AM 790 KNST.
All matters discussed on this show are for informational purposes only. Opinions expressed are solely those of Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, and staff. All topics covered are believed to be from reliable sources. However, Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC makes no representation as to its accuracy or completeness. The show shall in no way be construed as a solicitation to sell securities or investment advisory services to residents of any state other than Arizona or where otherwise permitted. Topics should be discussed with your individual advisor prior to implementation. Fee-based financial planning and investment advisory services offered through Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Arizona. Insurance products and services are offered through Silverman & Associates, an affiliated company.